handing over to Olawumi. Obviously, you're the moderator of the session, and so we are going to engage one another in the next maximum 30 minutes. So I'm going to cut back to you when needs be. Over.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here to discuss our panel session, Residential Real Estate Strategies for Apartment Developers and Investors. My name is Olawumi Olasore, as has already been said. Jide Adekola and Tunde Balogun. Is Sa'a joining us, or it's not possible, but whichever way, we'll go ahead and see how it goes. So I'll start with Jide. Jide, you've been doing this since 2008. So tell us how it's been for homework. Plus COVID, so we just take it on as well.
Thank you for having me. I'd like to thank the organizers as well. This is something that is good for us to rub minds and mainly collaborate. For us, we started since 2008. We are actually a group of architects that had looked at, consultancy and realized that we are only limited to what the clients want. So when you want to display architecture, we feel the best way to do it is to be at the top of the food chain. That was how we got into development. So we actually started doing consultancy since 2008 and had our first development, I think, 2013. And over time, because of the uniqueness of the projects and the designs, that has helped us to gain a lot of ground. And there's also the innate passion for what we're doing. And I think that also adds a lot to it, because in situations like COVID and NSAS, you have to still be thriving at those times, And there's one important thing to say about that, since you mentioned COVID. In every situation that you have, there's always some kind of green light, or will I say positive end to it. Not that we want COVID to come in or NSAS, but, there's that tendency for you to give up and stop doing what you're doing. A lot of people just stopped doing what they were doing during COVID. What happened for us was that we just went back into research deep and see how we can do things better. And incidentally, those times are when people have time to sit at home and reflect. That's the time that those in the diaspora thought it would be good to get properties in Nigeria. I will say that till date, I think that entire COVID period was where we got our highest revenue. And that was because immediately after COVID, people always engage with those that they see working. And that was what happened, and just to spin it off, to another direction, it's also the choice. You have to be very creative when stuff like this happen. Right now, there's a big demand for 2-bed and 1-bed units. And I'm sure Tunde will, because we're also collaborating on something on that. So there's a lot of demand for 2-bed and 1-bed units. And there's a lot of demand for spaces where you can just have a study at home. So being architects, we started designing units that have that kind of workspace. In fact, the residential developments that are multi-use, what we do is that we actually design a co-working space on the ground floor. So that enables them have some kind of study office space that is not in their house. So, kind of things are things that kind of like added to it. So I just think creativity really did it for us during COVID. And at least the God will be the glory. We have developments in different parts of Lagos, GRA, Ikoyi, VI, Chevron, Ogon, but different areas, because we're also trying to tend to the non-consumption markets, because again, we had to be creative. Those that have at that time, people are not paying top dollar. So what you were getting were people that wanted something affordable, but how can we pay for that affordability? So we started doing studio apartments that were kind of hippie, kind of things you see in London, and a lot of people now started thinking to themselves, why will I buy a 45 million house when I can buy 3 1-beds or 2 2-beds? And funny enough, you have so many people that want those kind of spaces. And the thing is, your rental income even ends up being more than one house that you have. So that has changed the dynamics completely for us. And there's a very high demand. I'm sure Tunde will talk more about that, because what we're doing is on that 2-bed and 1-bed. So that's basically how it's been for us.
Okay, fantastic. It's good to know some people use their lockdowns well. I think a lot of people did make significant progress during then. And so after the lockdowns, we saw the spike in activity. So Tunde, it's been about 4 years since Rent Small. Do you want to tell us how it's been?
So yeah, it's a pleasure being here. Thanks to the organizers for putting this together, and a pleasure to my brother, my lovely brother Jide. I count it a privilege being on this stage with you. So Rent Small was battered from personal experience. When I moved back to Nigeria in 2015, I was before I moved back, I wanted to buy a property. I had saved up about 10 million naira, and I wanted to buy like a studio or 1-bedroom. And even before I came back, I sent one of my siblings to go out there and search for a studio or 1-bed, and he couldn't find anything. And for me, I was shocked. Like, what's happening? What's all he could find was 3 beds, 4 beds, and the prices that it was giving me. I was like, okay, it seems like I need to work more before I return to Nigeria. But I moved back in 2015, and the process of trying to rent a property, also I was stunned again, like pay 1-2 years rent upfront. I've lived in different parts of the world. I've been to over 20 countries. So I've seen even developing countries in Asia, Thailand, Malaysia, Singapore. Singapore, let's put that off. They are running a different race compared to these other countries. So I've seen how they are solving their problems, even in the rental space. So for me, I have my background. The first successful company I started was in real estate, Unique Edge, managing luxury properties in Thailand and then in the US with my business partner. So when I was moving back, wanted to go into development, still in real estate. But when I saw that challenge in the rental market, I just knew that this was something I needed to jump at. It's something I can wake up to every day knowing that I'm doing something that would have a major impact and would bring about a major revolution in the country, And one of the thoughts at that point for me was, how are young people like myself, how would they survive 5-10 years down the line, if they had to pay the money they haven't earned, to rent a property, So that was how we jumped at it. And we knew that technology, we had to drive it through technology. We need to do things differently from the way traditional real estate players have done it. So from finding to payment. But in starting, just to give a bit background, for the first 5 months, we didn't get a single property. We were going to traditional real estate companies, wanting to partner with them. Our value proposition was very strong, in a way that all the challenges that landlords were facing, like default, we packaged a strong value proposition that could curb all those things, even the type of agreement that we introduced or we were going to go under, there's provision for that already by law. But a lot of people didn't, even the traditional real estate, they didn't know how to go about it, but we were able to, package our solution under it. For the first 5 months, no one signed up with us. And I had to, in fact, we dissolved the first team, and then I rented a 2-bedroom at Ikate. I turned my 1-bedroom in Lekki Phase 1 to our first office. So I rented a 2-bedroom at Ikate. I was staying in 1 room. I wasn't married then. The second room, I put it on Rent Small, and that was the first property that we rented out on Rent Small. And we're able to package that story of that one property as if we achieved a big success, and we're able to take it to landlords. And from there, we got the first landlord that had about 3 vacancies in his 13-unit property. He gave us one, said, I'll try it out. I like what you guys are up to. I think this is what Nigeria should be doing, even though a lot of us, we have the fear of, will it work? But I'm willing to give it a try, and that was what he did. And guess what? It's been a journey of over 3 years with this landlord now. The entire property is under Rent Small. Several of his other properties are under rent small, and we are managing this property. So the story for us for the past 3 years is just been from one thing to another. We've come to also learn that a lot of these properties have issues, and we need to, we need to come up with solutions in dealing with how people live. It's one thing for you to find a place to rent. It's another thing when you move in, start having issues in the property infrastructure, like structural issues, water issues, light issues, and all of those things. And you don't have the solution. I mean, it's not like we have a system in Nigeria where the government, we have infrastructure readily available to solve this thing. So it appears that you have to come up with your own solution, So I can go on and on, but I think I'll just stop there.
Thank you, Tunde. It's definitely inspirational. It may be 4 years, but we do not doubt the amount of effort you have put in. It's recognizable, and we acknowledge that. But riding on what has been said, of course, even at Jide Tyra & Co., we know the demand exceeds the supply significantly beyond Lagos into most of the cities, from Abeokuta to Ibadan to Owerri to Kano. You see those differences. I wanted to know from Jide first, what are your strategies for these markets beyond Lagos? Of course, even in apartments, there are different levels. You have the affordable housing. This is something you're willing to commit to long term. What are your strategies on that side? Middle income, of course, with the premium markets, if you build, they will certainly buy. So what are your strategies on that?
Yeah, so for us, we first of all look at it as the fact that you have to, people don't work with just drawings on paper. It's the success story that will really help you go into areas that you have not gone into before. We're trying to exploit, it's just like how joint ventures came up. When it first came up, everybody was like, what are you talking about? But I see a lot of people, advising, their parents, let's break down this property and try to build multiple units or multiple residential spaces. You can see what's happening in VI. You can see what's happening in Lekki Phase 1. The old is going down, the new is going up, apartment units, 2 beds, 1 beds and all. So I think, first of all, for us, we just want to make sure that you get that example, which is why we're trying to do stuff further down around Ogombo, because we're looking at the price line. It takes a lot of study to also make sure that you don't build, you're trying to build affordable. And in fact, trying to build affordable now that prices have increased. So it takes a lot of creativity, and you need to test run it, and that's what we're trying to do. And by the time that is done, the only difference between Lagos and other areas, maybe talk less of Abuja and Port Harcourt, is the price of land. So obviously, if you can get cheap land, then you can sell at affordable rates. If you can get collaboration as well with government, you can also get, land at a subsidized rate, because you're trying to give them affordable housing. So I think for us, those model units is what we want to take eventually as, because there's nothing you would be looking for that you will not find by the time we are done with those units, probably by the middle of next year. And the idea is that at that point, you can now go to like an Ogun State or go to like an Oyo State and say, look, we want to do this model here. Obviously, because of the fact that it's expensive in Lagos, you have to build up, coming towards VI. The more you come towards VI, the higher you go, just to ensure that you get that land value stroke construction cost right. But in those areas, it's a different market. And again, I keep talking about non-consumption, because those are people that were not thinking about using their money to buy houses. They want it, but they don't have enough money. So if you can get, and the population is far more than those that can afford it. So the idea behind it is that if you can get these guys to, because we're trying to also team up with some mortgage houses. I think 1 or 2 of them have already agreed. We said, look, not everybody wants to have a 15-year mortgage. People are if I can give someone a 5-year payment plan, they're going to jump on it. So can you create a model for us that is still the mortgage model? You can still do the verifications you want to do, but these guys want to do 3 to 5 years max. That way you're gradually delving into that space of people that are not even, they're just renting. In fact, the ones in Ogombo presently, if the person rents for 5 years, he has bought the house. So what's the point giving the money to a landlord? Why don't you just get into the mortgage plan and get your own house, you know. So for me, I think that is what tells the success story, because we feel we don't just go into an area because there's an opportunity. I feel it will bring financing opportunity. I feel it will bring partnership with government. I think it will bring more people to understand it, because we already have people in diaspora now saying, my hometown, can I do something like that? You know, because they bought from us here. So there's nothing that can beat the examples. You know, I would also take a leaf from what Tunde said as well. Look at how he had to use his property to first run it, and then people now saw it and then now went for it. So I think that's what's key, you know, because not everybody in those areas are buying because they want to rent. Most of them are buying because they want to own a house. And these are people that don't even have access, you know, and I think that market, that's what happens in those areas, you know, but like Abuja and Port Harcourt, those are areas where we can replicate what we're doing in Lagos easily, you know. So moving forward for us is just, since you understand the market here, try as much as possible to get those examples of all the different types. So for us, we pride ourselves with the variety of flexibility. So flexibility in payment, flexibility in location. You can't mention a location in Lagos that you can't find what we want to give you. Flexibility in the house typology. So 2 beds, 1 bed studios, you know. At first, when we first tried it, like some 6-7 years ago, it was almost like a risk, because we were not hearing studios. We just saw it in the UK and US, and like, let's try this thing. So it was a test and they jumped at it. So for me, I think that's what's gonna help to, and then a lot of partnerships. So we're looking at that, linking up with those that could help out with such things, and then make sure that there's a demand, research for that demand, and just tap in there. But I believe it will grow exponentially so far as we have those models. We can bring them to Lagos. Come and see what we're doing at Ongobo. Come and see what we're doing in Yaba. Come and see what we're doing in, you know. So, and that way they see it live, and then they can pick it up. So I guess that's it for us.
Fantastic. I've heard some things that Jude has said that has led to, I can see where your collaboration comes in, but can you explain it so people can?
Okay, I'll just speak from the demand side that Jide mentioned. I mean, he also mentioned earlier that we are working on something together. So what Rent Once More, using technology to drive Rent Once More, what it has done for us is it has given us a huge database that we could pretty much ride on to make decision and see where the market is going, you know, years from now. I mean, I mean, not to boast, it would be hard for any rental business or rental company to compete with the kind of data we have. And that's the power of technology, right? So we know that the type of properties people want to rent. We know the location where they want to rent. We know what they want to pay. You know, we have this rich data, and we're able to, I mean, studios 1 bedroom, for example, is the biggest demand right now in the rental market. A lot of the properties you see are 3, 4, 5 bedrooms, right? And you see that a lot of these properties are vacant also. You bring 100 units of studio into the market today, less than a month, you rent it out. In fact, before you complete the 100 units, you have people on the waiting list, you know, looking to, you know, pay for this thing, or they've started paying for them. So the solution, when we started seeing these problems and we have this bottleneck of supply, how do we get these properties? Developers are not building, you know, these studios at 1 bedroom. There are several developers that I would engage to see them, and after meeting with them, I will feel just very sad, and that I've just wasted